written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our board meeting today. I am Sue Wilson, President of the 2021 Board of Directors. During this meeting, we request everyone please turn off their cell phones or put them in vibrate mode. Please remember that face masks are required at this meeting. Effective January 2017, we started taping our board meetings, and by entering the room and/or participating in the meeting, you are hereby granting permission to the RCSC to record and use on video and audio tape your image, likeness, and voice. You are also waiving any claims you may have against the RCSC for using your image, likeness, and voice in connection with video and audio taping of this meeting and broadcast and/or publication of such meeting for any purpose of the RCSC. In accordance with our corporate documents, a board meeting is generally held the second Monday and last Thursday of each month, with the exception of July and August, when there are no board meetings. Before we begin the business at hand, I'd like to introduce you to your board of directors and our management personnel. To my right, Treasurer Sheila Rooney. Morning. Director Steve Collins.
Good morning.
Director Karen McAdam.
Good morning.
Director Rich Hofer.
Morning.
And to my left, Vice President Mike Egge.
Good morning.
Secretary Dale Lair.
Good morning.
Director Darla Akins.
Good morning.
Director Dan Schroeder.
Good morning.
And Marcia Johnson, our Corporate Executive Coordinator.
Good morning.
Our management team, Jan Eck, our General Manager. Bill Cook, our Director of Finance. Mike Whiprood, our Director of Buildings and Infrastructure. Sorry, Chris. Chris Herring, Director of Operations. Jolynn Higgins, our Communications and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. And Chris Lynham, our Pro Shop Manager. And I also want to recognize Alan Kleinhans, our audio-visual technician, who operates all the audio at this and other events, and Mike Dvorak up in the booth on video camera. All right, getting started. Secretary Laird, do we have a board quorum?
Madam President, we do have a quorum.
Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam President, I so move.
All right, Secretary Lair, a second.
I second.
Treasurer Rooney. So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the agenda? I will take a vote. This is a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion approved. Approval of our minutes from March 25th, 2021.
Madam President, I so move.
Secretary Lair makes the motion. Second. Vice President Egge, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Okay, a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We have no committee recommendations today, so Marcia, has anyone signed up to speak regarding any motions on the agenda today?
No, Madam President.
Okay. So we'll move into our motions. Second reading of motion 1 by Director Akins.
Madam President, board members, I move to accept the recommendation of the bowling committee to allow guest league bowlers to bowl at RCSC bowling centers during open play.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Director Hofer. So we have a motion On the floor to accept the recommendation of the bowling committee to allow guest league bowlers to bowl at RCSC bowling centers during open play. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, I will call for a roll call vote. I'm sorry, at this time, what you needed to do was to sign up for it.
There's no paper to sign.
Only one paper back there, not two papers.
Wait till the end of the meeting.
They can do a member comments.
You can do it on member comments to sign up for that.
I'm sorry.
What does he want to talk about?
What, sir, what is it that you want to talk about?
Well, you're gonna open up the ball.
Please come to the microphone. I cannot hear you from back there. And you need to give your name and number. And you will have 3 minutes.
My name is Robert Rigler. My number is 152442. All right, this is my first time here. I'm reading some of this stuff. Now, you're going to open up the league ball to have guests come in, correct? All right, so if league bowlers guests, that's everybody, right? Is that just for people in the bowling league?
It's just those that are active on a bowling league.
All right, so what's the difference between them guests and people, family members that come in and look at that?
Because they are bowling in a league, it's limiting how many guests then can be in there.
So all those guests that come in, they're paying dues to live, they're paying dues then to stay here then, right? Why are they getting special privilege than me? You know what I'm saying?
General Manager Eck, there is a cost to joining a league, correct?
So there's a pot to live here, am I correct? You live here, why can't you bring guests in? If you're letting other people come in, regardless of what, they're paying the ball too. So what's the difference? What?
It'll open on May 17th. All guests are on.
Okay,
Everything's open May 17th?
Yes.
All right. I'll be back though.
getting back to our motion, any discussion from the board? Okay, we'll go for a vote. Secretary Lair,
Yes.
Director Akins,
Yes.
Director Schroeder,
Yes.
Director Hofer,
Yes.
Director McAdam,
Yes.
Director Collins,
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney,
Yes.
Vice President Eggy,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That motion passes.
Madam President,
Yes, Secretary Lair.
I move to forego the third reading of motion number 1.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to forego the third reading and seconded. Any discussion? Can I have that? Okay, I will go for a vote. Director Akins,
Yes.
Director Schroeder,
Yes.
Director Hofer,
Yes.
Director McAdam,
Yes.
Director Collins,
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney,
Yes.
Vice President Eggy,
Yes.
Secretary Lair,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That means that that motion has had its final reading. Okay, moving on. Second reading of motion 2 by Director Schroeder.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to allow the Sun City Lawn Bowls Club to host the prestigious U.S. National Championships of Lawn Bowling event in late October 2022, which will require 2 greens for 6 days.
Okay,
Second.
okay, I have a motion by Director Schroeder, a second by Director Akins. So right now, we have a motion on the table to allow the Sun City Lawn Bowling Clubs to host the prestigious U.S. National Championships of Lawn Bowling event in late October of 2022. Any discussion by the board? Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll take a vote. Director Schroeder,
Yes.
Director Hofer,
Yes.
Director McAdam,
Yes.
Director Collins,
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney,
Yes.
Vice President Eggy,
Yes.
Secretary Lair,
Yes.
Director Akins,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That motion passes its second reading. Second reading of motion 3 by Director Hofer.
Thank you, Madam President. At the request of the Director of Golf and Grounds, I move to amend the Board Policy 17 titled Golf, Section General Golf Rules and Regulations, the following sentence within paragraph 4, where we change the date of the period for golf course, 5 players and 5 golf carts and regulations, and 4 on the executive courses from April 30th to October 31st of this year.
Madam President, I
Yes.
second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second by Secretary Lair. This is to allow no more than 5 carts on a group of 5 players and 4 carts on the exec courses ending October 31st. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll call for a vote. Director Hofer.
Yes?
Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney.
Yes.
Vice President Eggy.
Yes.
Secretary Lair.
Yes.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Director Schroeder.
Yes.
And I vote yes. That motion passes its second reading.
Madam President,
Yes.
I move that the third reading of this particular motion be waived.
Okay, I need a second.
I second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to waive the third reading. Director Hofer made the motion. Treasurer Rooney made the second. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, I'll take a vote. Director McAdam.
Yes.
Director Collins.
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney.
Yes.
Vice President Eggy.
Yes.
Secretary Lair.
Yes.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Director Schroeder.
Yes.
Director Hofer.
Yes?
And I vote yes, that motion passes. That becomes the final reading of that motion. Okay, moving on. Second reading of motion 4 by Secretary Lair.
Madam President, Board of Directors, I move to approve the recommendation by the Director of Finance, Bill Cook, to provide design and request for proposal from Fire Security Electronics and Communications Incorporated for the development of a safety and security initiative for a cost of $35,800 not included in the budget.
Second.
Seconded by Director Collins. So I have a motion by Secretary Lair, seconded by Director Collins, in order for the Director of Finance to obtain the cost and provide design and request for a proposal from the Fire Security, Electronics, and Communications of $35,800, even though it's not included in the budget. Any discussion?
Madam President,
Yes, Director McAdams.
I just want to clarify that I'm basically in favor of this, but I do have a concern about whether we are carefully considering what the implications, the downline implications of such a safety and security initiative might be on the annual property assessments that we collect, and whether there's been a sense that, you know, this is something that we would do provided it would not require more than an X dollar per year increase in property assessments. So something like this, we're talking about, I asked at the last meeting, like, are we talking about multiple millions of dollars when we do this? And I guess my concern is simply, are we taking into consideration the fact that we have limited resources, and that if we're going to add another layer of substantial expense, whether we are setting any kind of restrictions about what we would allow to be an increase in revenue?
Madam President?
Yes, Secretary Lair.
In response, I would say most definitely, what this is we're really just looking to see what it is we would need and what it would cost. At that point, we would discuss that, and that's when your concerns would come up. I think we need to at least have a baseline to start. And again, because my involvement with the Long Range Planning Committee, safety is a big issue. Security is a big issue. I had some dental problems. I just went to the dentist this morning, and one of their windows was broken out. Someone broke in. So I think it's important that we take a look at this. This isn't the Sun City that our grandparents lived in. Things have changed. The environment around us has changed. I think we need to take a look at that and change with it.
Madam
Director
President
McAdam?
and Director Lair, I very much appreciate that, and I think, and I'm willing to accept that. I'm just saying that this is costing us $35,000 to get even sort of a ballpark figure. And I guess my concern is simply if we have any way of estimating what the potential down road costs of this are going to be, we sort of do have an idea already. And I think it's just really important as we discuss this and also for our membership to understand that this is not just a free add-on. This is something that would cost all of us money. And I guess that's my question, is that so we're spending $35,000 in order to get a figure. Is there any sense that if this figure exceeds X number of dollars, it would be, it would not be interesting for us? Or I guess that's my question. It's a lot of money to spend.
Madam President?
Secretary Lair.
You know, how you implement this is going to vary. We may, once we get our facts and figures and what they propose, we may recommend that we, do stages of implementation. It doesn't have to be, slam dunk everything at once, but we don't know that. So I know that we were looking at security video surveillance in parking lots because we've had some incidents with that. And this is just to make sure that, if we do something like that, that we make, any program we put in would have the ability to be integrated. We don't want to have a piecemeal here and then something else over here. We want to have a plan and how fastly you implement that and what you can afford to do. It's not really any different than your household budget. You would have to, spread that out over some time, and how you do that would really depend on what the answers we get from this request for proposal.
And it would be brought back to this board to make that decision.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm moving to a vote. Director, no, I'm sorry, please wait, you'll have a chance at the end. Director McAdam,
Yes.
Director Collins,
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney,
Yes.
Vice President Eggy,
Yes.
Secretary Lair,
Yes.
Director Akins,
Yes.
Director Schroeder,
Yes.
Director Hofer,
Yes.
and I vote yes. That motion passes its second reading. Okay, moving on to agenda items. General Manager Eck.
Madam President, directors, I am here on behalf of a buyer of the Sun City property, and they're asking for an exception request on behalf of a refund of inheriting their mother's property. And they're asking, in our bylaws, it allows for 1 year from the time you inherited the property to sell the property and get the preservation and improvement fee and the transfer fee refunded. And they are asking for the 1 year requirement to be extended to 2 years based on complications brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic.
Okay,
Any questions?
any questions for General Manager Eck? Any motion? Okay, that particular item dies due to lack of motion. General Manager Eck?
So the management team is requesting that the Board of Directors consider what we're calling getting back to normal. And the idea behind getting back to normal is that we would basically remove all COVID rules and regulations. Many have been in effect for a year now. And the reason why now and not previously is because just on April 5th, the governor signed Senate Bill 1377, which provides immunity from liability for damages in any civil action for any injury, death, or loss to any person or property that is based on any claim that a nonprofit organization failed to protect the person or property from the effects of a public health pandemic. That provides considerable liability release, and as a result of that, both our legal counsel and our insurance brokers and carriers have changed their position of not moving in this direction to being somewhat okay with that. Not that that's perfect, and obviously it hasn't been tested in court, and if you've been in court, you know that regardless of what the law says, it's the court cases that really dictate what happens in future cases, and so since this has never been tried, it's an unknown. The other thing that has happened is we used 85351 zip code to calculate the percentage of people that live in Sun City that have been vaccinated. And the reason we can't use 85373 is because quite frankly, the population of Sun City in that zip code, because it extends beyond Sun City proper, is already greater than the number of Sun City folks. So it's, you know, like 135% or something. So it's not a valid calculation. I've provided for the board the exact calculations that happened, and I did go up this morning at 7:10 a.m., and at 7:10 a.m. today, we are at 66% vaccinated in Sun City. Yes, exactly. And part of that is, and you'll see some of the numbers, they'll finish, we have the second shots process happening for our Sun City event right now, and they'll finish those tomorrow. So those two things have led us to believe that it's time to get back to normal, and the process of that really takes away, the governor already said that we didn't have any restrictions regarding masks, regarding how many people are utilizing the facility. Those restrictions were removed by the governor. And the only thing that we have that we strongly believe is very important is that this doesn't occur until May 17th. And some may say, why May 17th? And it's really because any of our employees that were under 55 years of age, the first time they could be vaccinated was March 24th. And on March 24th, the state opened 30,000 appointments for vaccination for anyone between 16 and 54. And in 20 minutes, those appointments were gone. So it's not like our staff necessarily got in on March 24th. But if they are vaccinated, and they've got the Moderna, they have 4 more weeks before they get vaccinated, and then it's really 2 more weeks before they're protected. Now, the one thing that is true, and it's very important for the board to understand, is that as an organization with 400 employees, we are responsible to protect our employees. That liability does not end regardless of what is done in state law. That's not what they're talking about. The liability to protect your employees remains very strong. And so we feel that May 17th provides them with the opportunity to get their first and their second shots, and that provides protection. So that's why May 17th. So that's our recommendation. Thank you.
Madam President,
Yes, Secretary Lew?
I move to approve the recommendation for getting back to normal plan as written.
I second.
Second by Treasurer Rooney. Okay, so we have a motion on the table to approve the getting back to normal for May 17th. Any discussion? Director McAdam?
Madam President and Ms. Eck, if I understand this proposal correctly, the reopening plan foresees the ongoing closure still for 35 days of chartered clubs until May 17th, the day on which they reopen, not just for members, but also for guests. Furthermore, if I understand things correctly, clubs which have not been able to conduct business meetings for over a year will still be unable to do so prior to May 17th. If that's correct, I'm just asking whether it wouldn't be wise to issue a blanket reopening of all chartered clubs effective immediately so they can prepare strategies for accommodating guests.
General Manager Eck.
The clubs have been able to meet all this time. We've provided sufficient space for them to do so, and they can meet with 6-foot physical distancing. And all they have to do is go to the club's office and make that request, and they can meet and they can make whatever plans they need to make for that. The May 17th date allows clubs, regardless. All clubs could have opened all this time, provided that their club operation was such that they could adhere to the physical distancing. And clubs like some dance clubs, that's not a possibility. Card clubs, you can't play cards, too far apart. You can't even see what each other are playing. So some of those clubs did not find a way to open, but many of our clubs did find a way, and softball's a great example of that, because they don't even, you can be put out on this base while you're running to this base, because that's how far apart you are. So, they found ways, Whisper Ball was in here, and he's found a way as well to do things for Whisper Ball and make that. So many clubs have been able to reopen this during this time, but there are some that have not. So.
Okay. Director McAdam.
So, Madam President, Ms. Eck, I understand that. At the same time, we have been approached by members who have said they have submitted requests. For instance, I'm thinking of water volleyball that were denied, even though it seemed like they had made a very good faith effort to do so. And perhaps that issue has been resolved. But in the context of the last meeting, I think I asked Director of Operations Chris Herring whether it wouldn't be possible just to, rather than requiring each individual club, for instance, card-playing members, have to submit something saying, well, if we're all vaccinated, can't we just come in and play cards again together? That instead of requiring each individual club to go through a very sort of onerous process with no real expectation that it will be validated, that couldn't we just issue a blanket reopening saying that chartered clubs are able to make those decisions for themselves? And as I recall, the statement was, yes, we could do that. And so I guess that's my question. Wouldn't it be more favorable to all of us to simply allow chartered clubs to reopen and make those decisions for themselves based on vaccination, perhaps, or other reasons?
Madam President,
Yes.
and Director McAdam, I think that Director of Operations Chris Herring spoke directly to the issue with having anyone provide proof of their vaccinations, because that becomes somewhat of a issue in knowing their medical information. So I don't know if Chris has more to add to that, but so we have not advised clubs or done ourselves where we're looking for whether somebody's been vaccinated or not.
Madam President, board members, first I'd like to just comment on, I think, the paraphrasing of my comment last meeting. And what I had indicated we could do and would be possible was to allow guests for those clubs that are currently in an outdoor activity without requiring them to submit for that. It was not regarding opening up all clubs. It was very specifically regarding the outdoor activities that were already in place, that they could continue, they could have guests in that type of a setting. With respect to the vaccination, my comments were related to not how we have somebody do an activity, but if they can do an activity. I think even taken aside the medical record confidentiality piece of that, but our bylaws and board policies indicate that those conditions that are if a cardholder can do an activity. To add a vaccination to that, to the if that would allow you to even participate, is not provided for in those documents. And I think what we've been doing is how you participate, and that's certainly within our purview, but not if you can, and assign a vaccination to that.
Yes, Director Collins.
Mr. Herring, sir, why are we treating our club members, some of them, as guests? That's my only, if we're not allowing all the clubs to open until guests are allowed in. I think the only question is, why can't our clubs open sooner without the guests, and then your May 17th be for the guests?
Well, May 17th, Madam President, Director Collins, May 17th is that date which all clubs, both club members and guests, are permitted to do the activity. It's really those club activities that are difficult to do those activities without masks, without physical distancing, and that May 17th date will allow that to happen. To do that ahead of time, well, you still have, if you did that today for those clubs, let's say a dance club, they still have challenges with physical distancing, with mask wearing. That May 17th date allows those clubs the opportunity to do that activity without those restrictions in place.
Madam President?
Yes, Secretary Lehr.
I really think we should stick to this plan. This is very well written. It's well thought out. We still have to follow CDC guidelines. Maybe by May 17th, they will alter those guidelines, but right now, I don't see, rushing this through any more than, I think we've got it covered. I would leave it the way it is.
Madam President. Treasurer Rooney. Yes, Treasurer Rooney.
One thing I think that's crucial, in fact, I think it was Director McAdams' list of Cs, is consistency. And we're trying to get a consistent date now for everything. I agree with Secretary Lehr. Be consistent, use May 17th. In fact, some of our liaisons are looking to us right now, the posse, the library, looking to see what we're doing so they can also mirror that. So I agree. May 17th is great.
Okay. Any other discussion? Director McAdams.
So I do have sort of a larger philosophical concern here, and that is that management has indicated to us that the rationale for choosing this date is based specifically on the need to protect our staff. Now, believe me, I'm totally in favor of doing rational and reasonable things to protect our staff, very much in favor of that, as a matter of fact. But in a correspondence with senior management, I actually have the part of that email in front of me. It said, the fact is that we know we have frontline staff under the age of 55, and if it were only one person, it is our duty to protect them. And that's the rationale for saying it's not until that last person has been able to be vaccinated that we're willing to consider a return to normal. So if I could just sort of paraphrase that myself, I think what I see ourselves saying, and this is a typical board responsibility to say, do we agree with this rationale? We see ourselves morally obligated to continue extraordinary measures, in this case, denying 37,000 cardholders their usual rights and freedoms if it would protect just one employee. And this seems like a completely new standard governing management's decision-making. So what was prompted by an original fear of the potential of a plague-like national and global crisis that would completely overwhelm our health systems now would be normalized for application in non-crisis situations. So if we give our stamp of approval to this thought, what will happen when COVID is history and there are no more COVID concerns at all, but the flu season hits and we were to say it would actually protect our staff if we reduced attendance or capacity at our rec centers by 50%. That would obviously be the case. The potential for people to get the flu would be severely reduced by further extraordinary measures. So I guess I'm just asking ourselves if, as a board, we are willing to make that rationale the basis for this decision of putting off a return to normalcy for 5 more weeks, because I'm okay with the May 17th. Believe me, I'm really, really happy that we have a date in mind at which things will return to normal. But I am concerned about making this rationale the basis, and as a board saying we embrace this, because I simply see the potential that that same rationale could be applied in the future in ways that I think would be very wrong.
Director McAdam, I have to say, COVID is not the flu. It is a lot different. And not protecting our staff and not putting that out is a very callous way to act. We have to protect our staff.
Well,
and so that is one of the things that, in looking at this May 17th, this gives our staff ample time to get their first vaccination, wait the time, get their second vaccination, and then have the 2 weeks in order to be fully vaccinated.
Madam President, I understand that. That's been communicated to us in writing. It's been communicated to us just now. I understand that what we're saying is that the rationale is that we want our staff to all be fully vaccinated before we return to this. And so I actually had approached senior management trying to figure out exactly what number of frontline staff are we talking about, because there is, what we're doing is we have imposed the greatest impingement of rights and privileges in the history of our lifetimes. And there needs to be a strong rationale for doing that. And if we put out there and say, if it protects one employee, we're willing to do this. I don't believe that it's callous to say, well, let's look at this and balance what we're looking at. Is there some way to reassign that one person to a non-frontline activity, for instance, to provide extra protections in order to allow 37,000 people to return to normalcy sooner?
Director McAdams, we are not going to ask the staff if they have had their vaccination, because that goes against the medical. What we are doing is simply providing them enough time to do that.
I understand. I would be interested in knowing what Ms. Eck would like to respond, I believe.
General Manager Eck.
Madam President, Board of Directors, I'm the one that wrote that in the email, and I wrote that in the email in context a little different than what Director McAdam is presenting that. It was not in context to that if there was one person that I won't even know if there's one person or not. It was in that it's the right thing to do. She was asking how many people that affected, like if it wasn't enough employees, that it wasn't valid. And my response was that if it's one employee, it's valid. We have to protect our staff regardless. And that it isn't about how many there are, but that I know for a fact that there are frontline employees under the age of 55. And that's what and if there was one, quite frankly, in my opinion, it would be the right thing to do. This isn't something that I'm putting out as a principle. That was an email that I wrote directly to her in response to her wanting to know exactly how many employees were of that age, how many employees had been vaccinated, and how many employees were on the front line versus, for instance, in golf maintenance or et cetera. Completely different context than what I believe it's being presented as.
Thank you. Okay, going for a vote to accept getting back to normal. Director Collins.
Yes.
Treasurer Rooney.
Yes.
Vice President Eggy.
Yes.
Secretary Lair.
Yes.
Director Akins.
Yes.
Director Schroeder.
Yes.
Director Hofer.
Yes.
Director McAdam?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That motion has passed first reading. Okay, at this time, we are opening to...
President?
I'm sorry, yes, Director
I'd like
Collins.
to waive the second and third readings on that. Make a motion. Waive the second and third readings.
Any second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to waive the second and third reading on this. Any discussion?
I mean,
Director Collins?
if we're all in agreement with management, then we might as well just do this and make it official.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion? Treasurer Rooney,
Yes.
Vice President Eggy,
Yes.
Secretary Lair,
No.
Director Akins,
No.
Director Schroeder,
No.
Director Hofer,
No.
Director McAdam,
Yes.
Director Collins,
Yes.
and I vote no. The motion does not make it. Okay. So it will come back for second reading at least. Okay. At this time, we are opening up the floor for comments. Marcia, do you have anyone who has signed up to speak?
Vic Hageman?
Okay, as you approach the speaker, the microphone, we ask that you state your name and member number. And while we do not have a time limit for speaking, we do ask that you are considerate of time so everyone who wants will have a chance to speak. If you make comments and then want to return a second time, we ask that you wait until everyone gets an opportunity to speak. And then time allowing, you can return for additional comments. Yes.
Hi, everybody. Vic Hageman, 145711. Last month, I came and there was a discussion about a definition of what a meeting was or something like that. And Secretary Lair and Hoffer were involved in that. And then that was tabled. And I just want to know what the status of that issue is.
Okay.
And then secondly, I've noticed some street parking at the Phase 1 south of Grant, a lot of street parking. So is there a street parking policy in Sun City that I can be referred to? Because there seems to be a lot more cars parked on the street in Phase 1.
Okay. Vic, as far as the first motion when you were talking about on the meetings, because it was not taken off the table at that next meeting, that motion died. So it's gone away.
So is it, so that tabled motion that
It's gone.
McAdam?
Yes.
So where we're on the first motion then?
Well, no, it's gone. The whole thing is gone because it was not brought back off the table. So it's gone.
Oh.
As far as street parking, you are needing to talk to Showa about that. That would be a Showa.
Talk to her.
No.
Who?
We're talking Showa, the HOA, Sun City HOA.
Oh, okay.
That's who you would talk to about the parking.
Okay, parking, good. And, okay, thank you for that. And I guess I just want to mention Ms. McAdams about water volleyball. I'm a big water volleyball club person, and they were always able to meet as far as having meetings. They just couldn't swim. So they can meet right now and develop plans for the May 17th opening. They just have to follow the regular guidelines, 6 foot spacing, wear your mask. I belong to the Next Gen group, and we've been doing meetings through Zoom. So meetings can be handled through clubs to prepare for the May 17th opening. So the volleyball club has never had a restriction on that. Am I correct there? Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
No one else has signed up to speak, Madam President.
Okay, now we'll open up the floor for anyone who did not sign up but would like to speak.
Westmeyer Jean, 33543. I just have 4 comments. One, I want to congratulate you on hiring Bill Cook as Jan's replacement. I love Jan. She did a great job, but I think it's time she's moving on and we find somebody else to work with down there.
No argument.
I mean, she did a great job. Second thing is, I want to thank you for letting the 5 golf carts for the summertime. I think that's a great move. It is kind of hot out there, and I don't think we're compacting too bad. I don't know about the golf guy, whether he believes it or not, but that's immaterial. Second thing, I want to congratulate you on starting to work on security by getting the $35,000 to look at what we have to do for security. I'm on a long-range planning, and we talked about that extensively. I think it's a matter of getting our foot on the program and where we want to be and what we want to do. Then he will establish the pricing. Then we can lay it out for a 5-year plan or a 2-year plan or whatever. But we have to start somewhere with security, and if we don't start someplace now, we're never going to get there. So McAdams, your problem with that, I don't know, but I think we need to spend the money to get moving and get moving on this thing right now, not later. And that's what the long-range planning was pushing, and I think we want to thank Director Lair for her effort on making that happen.
And Jean, you have to lift your mask. Put your mask up, please.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh. Hey, wait a minute, that's going back to what Jan says. 17th of May, we won't need these, we can burn them. Yeah, I gotta have it up. Okay, anyway, yeah, this microphone will get bad. I don't understand why you voted 4 to 5 to not take the second and third reading off. What are you waiting for 3 more readings? It's 3 more weeks or 3 more months or whatever the hell's going on. We only got 30 days before we hit the 17th of May. Mr. Hofer, why you voted no, I don't understand it.
Well, I can explain. First of all, this is the first reading of it, and it would be good to have a second reading to allow card holders to make comments before we pass that and send it through. So to give our card holders a chance to respond to it.
Oh, okay, I guess. Yeah, so we'll bypass the third one next month. 17 days later. Okay, other than that, I don't have anything. I think everything is going good, and those are my 4 comments.
Okay, thanks, Jean.
Good morning. My name is Jim McConnell. My number is 47962. I'm here asking for clarification on the element of the management recommendation, the checkmark listing that says entertainment and events will resume. I wish to clarify whether that means just rec center sponsored events and entertainment. We have several performing type groups in the Sun City, among them concert band, women's chorus, ukulele club. I represent Sun City Players. I'm wondering if this language includes those. And secondly, when we say they're resumed, will there be, going forward, will there be limitations on seating capacity or any other considerations that way?
Okay, Jim, I'm going to let GM speak on it.
Oh.
Madam President, Board of Directors, Jim, thanks for bringing that up. It's actually covered. All chartered clubs are approved to reopen and conduct their normal activities, and those that you're speaking of are all chartered club. So there is no restrictions. RCSC is encouraging everyone to follow the CDC and the Arizona Department of Health Services. And the word is encourage on purpose. And what that means in the process, it's ever changing. And, we don't know. We aren't going to be requiring, we're not requiring to enter our facilities masks after May 17th, should this get its full votes. We're not requiring physical distancing. Whether we do some of that I know that some of Teresa's shows will be split into two, so there will be more spacing and more ability to do that. We have to plan ahead of time for that. So instead of running 1,500 in here, we'll run 750 at a time and put it into two shows. And so, that's kind of some of the things that we're doing in our planning process of getting this entertainment and events back open again.
Thanks, Jim.
Hi, Vic Hageman, 145711. Just to clarify that, so the way you wrote it says, let's be clear, RCSC encourages the following: use of face coverings and maintain social distancing. So just to be clear, as after May 17th, I'll use like the Sun Bowl, for instance. So let's say we had a special concert in the Sun Bowl July 4th, okay? So does that mean that there'll be no requirement for social distancing or face masks wearing?
So what it says is, you skipped the part, Vic, that says, let's be clear, RCSC encourages the following: follow CDC and NADHS guidelines to limit and mitigate the spread of COVID-19, such as. So if that is what they have at that time, we would encourage you to do so. Are we going to be restricting that and keeping and making sure that happens? No, we're not. We're going to do the best we can to get back to normal.
Okay.
My name is Bruce Lamb, 110989. First off, I want to commend the board for your work. And there's an old saying that was taught to me a long time ago. You can please some of the people some of the time, you can please other people other times, but you'll never please everyone.
No.
Reference to the get back to normal. When this disease broke out, everything was worried about the seniors. Now it's the employees. You talk about the employees under 55. They do not live in Sun City. They live out there in the world where everything is open now. He's more apt to get something caught out there and bring it back to us. So just consider and think about that. He's more apt to get it going, eating at a restaurant, which is open to everyone, going to a bar, or doing other activities, going to a Diamond's baseball game. He has more apt to catch it out there and bring it back to us. So that's something to consider about when you're opening things up. He's going to get it more apt out there than even if we opened up here, because basically we are a senior. And if I remember correctly, last time I looked, which is about a week old, 65 and above in the state was up over 75%. 55 and above was over 50%. So it's a standpoint, I know we want to protect him, but he's more apt to get caught with the disease outside our community because everything is open now. So just something to think about. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from the floor? Oh, Chris, I'm sorry.
Madam President, board members, we just had water volleyball referenced a couple times during this meeting. And we did meet, our Charter Club supervisor and myself met with the club at the pool, had a demonstration of the activities and also a plan submitted on how they were going to resume. And those have been approved. They were approved to open on the 14th, and they asked to push that back. They will be resuming activities on Friday the 16th this week. Just an update.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, board and directors. Elsa Will, 107545. I have a concern about deferring the second and third vote on the opening up again. Second vote would probably take near the end of April. Third vote would take probably during the middle of May. And right now, a lot of clubs are already assuming and you know what happens when you assume, that May 17th is a go. So there's going to be a lot of clubs making plans based on that. So if for some reason something happens at the third vote that May 17th is not happening, there's going to be a lot of discouraged people out there. So I would encourage waiving that second and third vote.
Thank you, Elsa. Okay, any other comments from the floor? Okay. Comments from the board? I would like to comment first. I appreciate senior management's cautious reopening. Over the last few months, we have never had to deal with a situation like this pandemic before. And I know that we have all heard from people who are unhappy and believe everything should have been opened up long ago, but they may not realize how many people we've heard from on the other side saying, thank you for being cautious, please help keep it that way to protect us because we all are a vulnerable population. So I applaud you for following the CDC and the ADHS guidelines, and I know you've had to make some really tough decisions. At times it would have been easier to say, just open it up, forget about it. But you have stuck to it, and I really appreciate you, so thank you.
And Madam President?
Director Akins.
I have to echo that because I think just a regular member, I don't think you realize how many hours that our management team has put in trying to make sure that everything is followed, that everything they do is following the CDC guidelines and everything they're doing is making everybody safe. They've spent hours and hours on the phone. They've spent hours and hours with emails. They have spent hours and hours of time that you don't even realize that they had to make sure everything, every I was dotted and every T was crossed. And I want to commend them for the excellent job that they've done to keep everybody safe because we did not have an outbreak of COVID here in Sun City. And we helped. We're not saying that we prevented it, but we did help with that, I believe. And I think they did an excellent job.
I agree.
Madam President?
Yes, Treasurer Rooney.
Just one thing, I also just wanted to show my appreciation. I haven't been on the board long, but I have to tell you, I'm appalled when I hear some of the things that some of our cardholders have done and said to our senior management team and our employees. It's beyond reproach. And that they've hung in there. Some of them quit based on it, but they've hung in there and they've done everything, firstly, that Doug Ducey wanted them to do. This was not an RCSC thing to begin with. It was a state thing. It was a worldwide thing. You can't go to the doctor yet without a mask on. So there's still things that we're working out, but I appreciate every single one of you and everything you've done. As a card holder and as a board member, I thank you.
Any other comments from the board? Okay. Our next meeting is April 29th, 2021, Sundial Auditorium right here at 9:00 a.m. I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Treasurer Rooney makes a motion to adjourn. Second.
A second.
Director Akins seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.